something different. We're going to make biscuits. Now for my friends across in England, what you call biscuits we call cookies. And these biscuits that I'm going to make are actually a savory that you would have with soup or stew or a meal. So anyway, we are going to do that now, so hang on to your spatula because here we go. First thing we do in this process is we need to preset our oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So we've got that going, and we'll let it get warm while we put the ingredients together. I'm going to put you here on the tripod so you can watch this process. Sorry if I'm making you a little motion sick there. I think you can probably see everything pretty well. Alrighty. There we go. So the first ingredient is 1 cup of all-purpose flour, white all-purpose flour. The second ingredient is 3/4 of a cup of multigrain flour, or if you prefer, you can use whole wheat. Then we want a tablespoon of baking powder. Make sure you use baking powder and not baking soda. If you happen to use baking soda, your biscuits will probably look beautiful and rise nicely, but you'll be ready for a kiss because they'll pucker you right up. Then we want 1 tablespoon of sugar. And finally, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. That's our dry ingredients. And now we'll use a whisk and we'll just really blend those well together. Try to keep it in the bowl. You want to make sure they're really well blended because you don't want to have pockets of any one thing in one place. I find for some reason my baking powder seems to have a few little lumps in it. We'll try to take care of that here as we whisk the ingredients together. There we go. Once you have those all whisked together, you don't need the whisk anymore. And the next ingredient will be 1/3 of a cup of either butter or margarine. I'm using margarine here. See if I can get it to come out of the cup without too much fuss. Now I believe in England you go by weights, and I'm not sure, you'll have to go online and look for a conversion scale to convert from American cups to the appropriate amounts that you would use. I'm not sure. I have some English cookbooks that were my mother's, and when I use those I use a kitchen scale. I've never bothered trying to convert one to the other or back again, so I'm sure making a nice mess here though, aren't I? There we go. A little bit more there. Afraid I grew up in a household with parents that came through the Depression, so I don't waste anything. Well, they also went through the war, so you want to make sure you use everything up. That should pretty much do it, I think. There we go. Now we use a pastry cutter and we cut that in. This is probably, well, the more tedious part of the operation. Now for anyone young that's making this, your parents will tell you this, and probably if your mother's helping you, she will have told you this, or your dad. Wash your hands before you start, because you are going to end up using your fingers a few times. And hygiene is very important, although I guess unclean hands might add a little extra flavor, but I don't know that I'd be wanting to be the one eating the biscuits if that was the case. So we just keep cutting this in. If you don't have a pastry cutter, then you can usually get away with a fork, but I find it a little bit harder. If there's a dollar store near you, or I think they're now probably a $1.25 store rather than $1, you can usually pick up a cheap pastry cutter there that'll do the job. This one is a professional one. It's the flat blade. You can also get ones that are made out of round wires, and they work as well. So whichever you prefer or whatever you have, make do. Alrighty. Now again, like I say, being the stingy guy I am, I want to get every little morsel. So I usually just sort of clean off the blades here and get the mix off there. There we go. Now for this next part, as you can see, there's a nice sort of just mealy looking, crummy looking, well, not crummy in a bad sense, but looks like crumbs. So the next thing we do, I usually take just a regular table fork, make a little indentation in the middle, and pour in my milk. And that is 3/4 of a cup of milk. You can use whole milk. I use 1%. That's how I keep my thin figure, har har har. And now we just use the milk to stir that in. And hopefully you can see this. And if not, I'm going to have to remake this video. But I think you should be able to see what's going on here. You can see I'm working the milk through the flour and butter mixture, or margarine mixture. And we're getting a dough. Now, I do find that most times, as in today, where our dough is a little bit sticky, as you can see. It's not where you're going to be able to knead it without having it stick all over you. So, what I do is I will take my dredge and I will add a little more flour to it until we get it to the consistency I want. I say I probably put in a couple of teaspoons there. Let's try and work that in and see how we do. You want it to stick to itself in a ball and not all over the sides of the bowl. Once you get it to that point, then you're ready to turn it out onto the counter. Now some people have a pastry board or a bread board that they use. I just use my counter, but I make sure it's nice and clean before I do this. So again, I'm not adding extra flavors to the mix. And this is getting pretty good here. So, well, I didn't realize the batteries had gone dead in my camera, and so you missed getting to see me turn the dough out onto the counter and knead it for about a minute, and then I spread it out into about a 1/2 inch thick sheet and cut it into 3-inch diameter circles. I have a biscuit cutter that does that job, but you can do just as well with a water glass, about a 3-inch diameter, 2.5 inch diameter, depending on how big you want your biscuits to be. But you can use those to cut the biscuits out as well. If you use a water glass, I suggest you flour the edge first though, so the dough doesn't stick. Now the biscuits have been in the oven for 10 minutes at 450 degrees, and they are ready to come out. So here we go. Let me turn the timer off. Pot holders, I almost reached in there without them. That wouldn't be very nice. But here we go, nice fresh biscuits. And we're going to put them now onto a rack to cool. Guess it would help if I put the camera on the subject. As long as you don't hold on to these too long, you can get them off the cookie sheet onto the rack without burning your fingers. Otherwise, you might be dancing around the kitchen yelling, hot potato, hot potato. I need to move the cookie sheet a little bit. Now, I always tell my people I share the recipe with that the secret to good biscuits is covering them with a red plaid tea towel. This poor towel is so old that, sorry, I'm used to doing this with two hands, so one hand's a little awkward. But this poor towel is so old that I don't even remember when I got it. That's how long I've had it. But there you go. One more quick peek. There's some lovely biscuits. And if they're cooked properly, you should be able to break them in half like that. And slap some butter on there or margarine, and there you go. Sometimes we have them for breakfast and put butter and jam on them. Sometimes we'll have them for lunch and have them with good cheddar cheese. Or sometimes we will have them with soup or stew or whatever you want. If you prefer them a little darker than that, instead of 10 minutes, maybe leave them in for 11 minutes and they'll be a little browner on the top. But I like them like that. They're nice and tasty. I'd offer you a taste, but unfortunately they have yet to invent a camera that transfers smell or taste. But there you are. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and take care, stay safe. God bless.